You think Bitcoin is about getting rich, about catching the next pump, about turning thousands into millions. But here's what nobody's telling you. Bitcoin isn't money. It's not an investment. It's not even really about wealth. Bitcoin is the first successful escape mechanism from a system that's been running for 5,000 years. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why governments are terrified of it, why banks can't replicate it, and why everything you've been told about how money works is designed to keep you trapped. Let's start with the thing everyone gets backwards. We're taught that money is a tool, a neutral medium of exchange, something that stores value and makes trade easier. That's the lie. Money has never been neutral. It's always been a control system. Whoever controls the money supply controls everything. They decide how much your labor is worth. They decide who gets access to capital. They decide which nations rise and which ones collapse. And for the last century, that control has been centralized in the hands of central banks and governments who can create unlimited amounts of currency whenever they want. When they print money, they're not printing wealth. They're printing claims on your time, your energy, your future productivity. You work harder every year and feel poorer. You save diligently and watch your purchasing power evaporate. You follow all the rules and still can't afford the house your parents bought on a single income. That's not your failure. That's their design. Every dollar created dilutes every dollar you've earned. It's taxation without legislation, theft without breaking in, and you can't opt out until Bitcoin. Here's where it gets interesting. Bitcoin isn't backed by gold. It's not backed by government decree. It's backed by energy. Every Bitcoin that exists required real electricity to create, real computational work, real resources extracted from the physical world. You can't print energy. You can't legislate more kilowatt hours into existence. You either expend the electricity or you don't. This means Bitcoin has something no government currency can ever have: absolute scarcity enforced by physics, not politics. Bitcoin, 21 million coins forever. That's not a promise. It's mathematics embedded in the protocol. And mathematics doesn't care about elections or emergency sessions or economic crises. Now here's what they don't want you to understand. Governments don't fear Bitcoin because it threatens their currency. They fear it because it threatens their control. When you hold dollars, you don't actually hold anything. You hold a claim. Your bank account is just a database entry. Your cash is a promise that can be broken through inflation, confiscation, or simple decree. During World War II, the United States government made it illegal for citizens to own gold under Executive Order 6102. They forced everyone to turn in their gold at a fixed price, then immediately revalued it higher, effectively confiscating 20% of everyone's wealth overnight. They can do this because they control the definition of legal money. They control the banks. They control the infrastructure. But they can't control Bitcoin. Bitcoin exists outside their system. It's pure information. 12 words that represent access to wealth that no government can touch, no court can seize, no army can confiscate. You've been told your whole life to trust the system. Get a good job, save in a bank, invest in approved assets, follow the rules, and you'll be okay. But you did all that, and you're still struggling. Still anxious about retirement. Still one medical emergency away from financial ruin. That's because the system wasn't designed to make you wealthy. It was designed to extract from you. Bitcoin is what happens when you stop asking permission and start protecting yourself. And here's the mechanism most people miss. Bitcoin's security doesn't come from any central authority. It comes from the network itself. Right now, Bitcoin's network is processing more computational power than the top 500 supercomputers in the world combined. To attack Bitcoin, you need to outspend the entire network. More electricity, more hardware, more coordination than every Bitcoin miner on Earth operating simultaneously. And even if you succeeded, you'd only disrupt transactions temporarily. You couldn't steal coins. You couldn't print more. You couldn't change the rules. China banned Bitcoin mining. The network didn't blink. Miners moved. Hash rate recovered within months. Because Bitcoin isn't a company. It's a protocol, like language, like mathematics. You can't ban it any more than you can ban prime numbers. Now, let's talk about something that affects you right now. When money loses value over time through inflation, you stop thinking long term. You live paycheck to paycheck, not because you're bad with money, but because saving is punished. Why save for 10 years if your savings lose half their value? Why delay gratification if waiting means getting less? This creates a society trapped in the present that takes on debt, that optimizes for short-term survival over long-term building. But when money gains value over time, everything inverts. Suddenly, saving makes sense. Delaying consumption means future you is wealthier. Long-term thinking becomes rational instead of punished. Bitcoin is the first money in modern history that rewards patience instead of punishing it. You're not failing at the game. The game is rigged. Bitcoin is a different game with different rules. Rules that actually benefit you for once. Here's where the stakes get real. While Bitcoin was being built, central banks were planning their response. Central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are the inverse of Bitcoin. Same technology, opposite philosophy. Where Bitcoin is decentralized, CBDCs are centrally controlled. Where Bitcoin is permissionless, CBDCs can restrict who spends what and where. With CBDCs, governments get programmable money, money that expires if you don't spend it, money that can only be used for approved purchases, money that gets automatically frozen based on your behavior. This isn't speculation. Central banks have published papers describing exactly these features. And here's the trap. They're going to offer convenience, instant payments, no fees, universal basic income delivered straight to your digital wallet. Most people will accept it because it sounds easier. They won't realize they're trading away the last form of private property that matters until it's too late. You already feel powerless watching gas prices, grocery bills, and rent climb while your salary stays flat. Imagine that same feeling, but now they can turn off your money entirely if you say the wrong thing online. Bitcoin exists as the exit door before they lock it. Everyone complains about Bitcoin's volatility, but they're measuring Bitcoin in dollars. That's the mistake. Bitcoin isn't volatile. Bitcoin is the constant. 21 million coins. Predictable issuance. Unchanging supply schedule. Dollars are what's volatile. Governments print trillions, change interest rates, manipulate markets. Bitcoin just sits there doing exactly what it's programmed to do, block after block forever. The volatility you see is the market figuring out what Bitcoin is worth relative to a currency system that's actively destroying itself. Now, here's where things get complicated. Institutions are buying Bitcoin. BlackRock, Fidelity, pension funds. Everyone celebrates this as validation, but when banks own the majority of Bitcoin, they can recreate the same fractional reserve system that exists with gold. They can issue Bitcoin IOUs, paper Bitcoin, products that claim to represent Bitcoin, but don't give you the keys. Most people will accept the convenience, the FDIC insurance, the familiar interface. This is how gold was neutralized, not by banning it, but by convincing everyone to store it with custodians who then lent it out fractionally. Bitcoin's defense is self-custody, not your keys, not your coins. But most people won't do it. And slowly, the revolutionary potential gets absorbed back into the system it was meant to replace. Here's something nobody talks about. You don't need credit scores to use Bitcoin. You don't need a bank account. You don't need approval from anyone. A teenager in Nigeria with a smartphone has the same access to Bitcoin as a billionaire in New York. When was the last time the financial system gave you equal access to anything? When did a bank approve your loan without checking your history, your income, your background? Never. Because the system is designed to gatekeep, to decide who deserves wealth and who doesn't. Bitcoin doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care where you're from. It doesn't care if you made mistakes 10 years ago. It just works for everyone equally. That's not just revolutionary. That's what fairness actually looks like. Most people think Bitcoin is anonymous. It's not. Every transaction is recorded on a public ledger. but Bitcoin enables privacy layers that can't exist in the traditional financial system. Lightning Network, CoinJoin, Taproot. When every purchase you make is tracked, analyzed, and stored forever, you don't have freedom. You have surveillance capitalism with a government backend. Cash provided privacy, but cash is being systematically eliminated, made inconvenient and suspicious. You've noticed it, haven't you? Fewer places accept cash. More places give you strange looks when you try to pay with it, like you're doing something wrong by wanting privacy. Bitcoin's privacy layers restore that option. Not perfectly, not yet, but the tools are being built. Privacy isn't about having something to hide. It's about having something to protect. Your dignity, your autonomy, your right to make choices without someone watching. Here's what's happening right now. The real battle isn't over Bitcoin's price. It's over Bitcoin's infrastructure. China tried to control mining and failed. But now Wall Street is buying mining companies. Governments are proposing regulations that would make running a node legally complex. This is the soft attack. Make it expensive to mine. Make it risky to run a node. Slowly centralize what was designed to be decentralized. The defense is radical decentralization. Thousands of small miners, millions of nodes, developers across every jurisdiction. This is the war that matters. The infrastructure war determines whether Bitcoin remains what it was designed to be or becomes just another captured system. Everyone calls Bitcoin digital gold. That's underselling it dramatically. Bitcoin stores value, but it also transfers value instantly across any distance. It divides infinitely. It has multi-signatures. It has time locks. Bitcoin is the first programmable property rights system in human history. You can set conditions, release it to your children when they turn 25, require 3 of 5 signatures to spend, build inheritance structures without lawyers or courts. Gold can't do this, neither can dollars. Bitcoin is dynamic while remaining absolutely scarce. So here's what matters. Forget the price. Forget the volatility. Ask yourself, do you want to be part of the last generation that needs permission to store and transfer value, or the first generation that doesn't? Start here first. If you don't control the private keys, you don't own Bitcoin. You own a promise. Get a hardware wallet. Move your coins off exchanges. Learn seed phrases. This isn't optional. This is the entire point. Second, think in decades. Bitcoin operates on 4-year halving cycles, but its real timeline is measured in generations. Bitcoin's value isn't in its dollar price, it's in its properties. Scarcity, censorship resistance. Those don't change when the price moves. Third, run a node if you can. When you run a node, you're verifying the blockchain yourself. You become part of the infrastructure that makes Bitcoin work. Fourth, think about Bitcoin as insurance. Insurance against currency collapse, against capital controls, against a future where money becomes a permission system. You don't buy insurance hoping to use it. You buy it knowing it's there if you do. Here's the final truth. Bitcoin isn't really about money at all. It's about the separation of money and state. The same way we separated church and state, media and state with the printing press, and information and state with the internet. For 5,000 years, whoever controlled the money controlled everything. Bitcoin breaks that loop. It creates money that nobody controls. Money that operates by rules enforced by mathematics instead of political power. You've spent your whole life in a system where every authority figure told you this is just how things work. You can't change it. You have to accept it. You have to play by their rules. But you don't. Not anymore. Bitcoin will either succeed in creating a parallel financial system that gives billions of people an opt-out from monetary manipulation, or it will fail and prove such a system is impossible. But the attempt matters because every person who holds Bitcoin is voting for a world where money isn't a control mechanism, where value can't be confiscated, where savings can't be inflated away, where privacy isn't a crime and sovereignty isn't a privilege. That world is being built right now, one block at a time, one person taking responsibility for their own wealth instead of outsourcing it to institutions that don't serve their interests. Bitcoin is the truth most people don't understand, because accepting it means accepting that everything they've been taught about how money works is a system designed to extract from them. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Now the only question is, what are you going to do about it? If this story changed how you view the financial systems of the world, please subscribe and like this video. We are uncovering the history they tried to bury and the future they are trying to control. Secure your sovereignty. The next chapter of the digital revolution will open soon.